ladies and gentlemen, we'll be starting in a few minutes. We're going to give just a minute or two, a little bit extra, allow folks more time to join before we begin. So we'll be starting momentarily. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Rob, and I'm a certified assistant county assessor with the Assessment Review Commission. I would like to thank Legislator Abrams for inviting me to speak with you today to help you learn how to file a grievance online for free without the need to hire a company to do it for you. Now, before we begin, I want to remind everyone to take advantage of the Q&A feature of this online event. If you have any questions, please enter them into the Q&A, and we will address as many of them as we can at the end of the presentation. And just to let you know, the reason we're not taking live questions is there's about a 30 to 40-second delay between when I say things and show you things and when you actually hear and see them. So rather to avoid the confusion of trying to take questions, we're going to wait till the end and we'll answer all your questions. That being said, as soon as a question pops in your head, take advantage of the Q&A feature, type in your question, and we'll get to it later on. And if I see it and I can address it earlier, I will do so as well. So I want to welcome you all to the Assessment Review Commission website, as you see on your screen, and you can get there by going www.askarcnassau.com. And before we get into the meat of the presentation, I want to let you know about a brochure we have available. There's a link on the right-hand side that says ARC 2223 brochure. If you click on that link, it's going to let you download a brochure with a lot of information that is handy to have around. It's got our contact information for our email address, our phone number. Also has a lot of important dates. And in case you are not aware, one of those important dates has changed. The last date to appeal for this grievance period was March 1st, 2021. That deadline's been extended to April 30th, so you do have more time. However, we strongly suggest that you apply for your grievance, you make your appeal as soon as possible. You don't want to wait till the last minute. Just like Christmas time, when everyone goes on Amazon at the last minute at the same time, sometimes things slow down. In our case, if you don't meet the deadline, you have no recourse. Once the deadline is passed, we can't do anything for you. So please do not wait until the last minute. Take care of your appeal as quickly as possible. You can do it now and then make changes up until April 30th. So if you want to get it done quickly and then go back and make some changes, you have that option. But please do not wait until the very end of the deadline. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is walk you through how to use the arrow system to file an appeal on your own without using a paid service. And again, those paid services are available to you. Some take flat fee, some take a percentage of how much you save if you save on your grievance. But it's very easy to do it yourself. It's free. And if you do get a reduction, all the savings goes to you. So there certainly is no real reason why you shouldn't do this yourself, and we're going to show you how easy it is to do. So on the ARC page on the left-hand side, you see it says arrow. It's highlighted in red. Or you could also just go right to their website, www.nassaucounty.ny.gov/arc/arrow. So we're going to click on the link. It's going to take us to the arrow page, which stands for Assessment Review on the Web. First thing you need to do, if you've never done this before, is register. Now, if you have registered before, you're going to want to double check your registration information, and we'll explain why in a moment. But if you've never been here before, you're going to click on register. So you see on the left-hand side, it says register with ARC. You're going to click on that link, and it's going to open up the registration page. You'll take a look, and all the information that has an asterisk by it, you have to fill out. So first name, last name, street address, city, state, zip code, phone number. The option about a third of a way down, it says ARC is now offering the option of receiving electronic or paper notifications for offers and determinations. That means you could either get contacted by email or get information by way of the regular mail. We recommend using the electronic. It's quick, it's easy, less chance of things getting lost in the mail per se. And I realize I'm making air quotes and you can't see me do that, but I was making air quotes. If you do choose the electronic option, we ask you to check your spam folder once in a while to make sure that the messages from ARC are not going to your spam folder. Very important to do that. Email addresses are required. Now, if you've already registered, you want to check and make sure the email address you have in the system is still valid. Oftentimes, you've changed jobs from year to year and maybe used a work address, or you used to be with FiOS and now you're with Optimum. Again, same thing. You want to make sure that the email that is being used is valid. So if you're registering for the first time, of course, you're going to put in a valid email. If you're checking your registration, you want to make sure that email address you still have access to. Then you're going to choose a user ID and choose a password. If for some reason you have forgotten your password, or after you do this, you don't remember your password, you can contact customer service department on the phone, and they will help you reset your password. Okay, so you filled all this out. We're going to click on complete registration. You get a little message that says, thank you for registering. Please click here to continue. It brings you back to the regular page, the home page, and now you'll notice it says, welcome to Arrow Assessment Review on the Web, John Smith. So it's going to be personalized to you, of course. If you are all done now, you wanted to register, but that's it for today, you can click on log out and you're all set. Especially if you're using a public computer. If you are maybe at the library using one of their computers because you don't have a computer, make sure whenever you are done, you click log out so your information is safe. Besides getting that on-screen confirmation, you will also get an email sent to the address that you registered with on the registration page. Now, it will look something like this, but may not look exactly like this. And it's going to confirm that they've got your registration. Here's the information you used and so forth. So again, if you don't get that registration email, double check your spam folder and make sure it's not in there. Okay, so now that the registration is complete, you're going to click on the Login tab to log into the system. You're going to enter your username and password and click Login. Now, we're going to be talking about Sales Locator. Now, the Sales Locator tool has been provided by ARC to help assist you in filling out your application form, and it's for a residential 1, 2, or 3 family homes. The Sales Locator cannot be used for condos or for co-ops. And what the Sales Locator does, it provides an adjusted sales price of properties that are comparable to yours, which can help you determine if your property is currently overvalued. And we'll go into what a comparable actually is in just a little bit. So to start, to file an appeal with the assistance of Sales Locator, you're going to click on it where it says, do you have a good case for filing an appeal? That link at the bottom. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do now is perform a property search by using either the address or your section, block, and lot numbers of your parcel. Most people do not know their section, block, and lot. It's perfectly okay. That's why we have a search here. So in the search, you're going to put the street number of your home. In this case, for example, it's 504. For street, you're going to put Christie. Now, is it Christie Street, Christie Lane, Christie Avenue? In our example, it's Christie Street, but we're going to ask you to put in just Christie. No street, no lane, no avenue. The reason for that is if you were to put street and you spell it out, S-T-R-E-E-T, But in the system, they only had it as ST. It would not find your property. So you leave that end off and let the computer look for all the options. If there's more than one Christie, if there's a Christie Street and a Christie Avenue, they'll both come up, and then you can choose the correct one for you. You also are going to want to put a city and a zip code in there to help narrow down the search. In this case, there's only one Christie Street, so we're going to click on it where it says parcel ID. It's circled in red, and we click on that. Next thing we're going to do is enter the security code to make sure it's an actual person doing this. So you take the letters that are in the black box and you retype them in the white box next to it. Now, it's not case sensitive, so that means whether it's capitalized or lowercase, it should still work as long as the letters you put in there are correct. You're going to click on continue, and you should see a photograph of your house, as well as information about your house. So at the top, you see your property address, 504 Christie Street in Hempstead. It's a one-family home. It's in the Rockville Center School District. It is not in a village, and it's in the town of Hempstead. Now, over on the right, it mentions that this is the assessment information for the years 2022 and 2023, because that's the tax years we're talking about. We work very far in advance. The appeal period, as you see, is Jan 4 to March 1st, and then of course you see the note at the top, it's been extended to April 30th. And the valuation date is January 4th, 2021. When they're working to figure out what the value of your home is, it's based on that date, January 4th, 2021. And as you can see at the bottom of that section, it says taxable market value, $461,000. So Department of Assessment has determined that the market value, what your house would sell for in an open market, would be $461,000, and that translates to an assessed value of $461. Okay, now on the left side, it talks about dwelling information, and we're going to do a close-up of that to show you exactly what you're looking at in there. So on the left-hand side of your screen now, you see dwelling information. It says style cape, construction aluminum or vinyl, year built 1954, lot size, living area, full baths, half baths, cars garage, and basement. Now, when you're looking at living area, you have to realize that that number only accounts for the area that's above grade. So you see that, yes, we have a basement. Basement is not included in the living area. So we have a cape. So there's a first floor and a second floor, and that square footage makes up the living area, which is there noted as 1,322. Now, if there's any information that is incorrect about that, so in this example, you see there's 2 full baths listed, but our house really has 3 baths. So you'll notice we click on change values. We can actually make that change from 2 to 3, and then we can click apply changes. And for the rest of the sales locator, it will note that you have 3 bathrooms. Now, it's very important to know that this change you have made is only for sales locator. It does not make any change to the actual records of Department of Assessment. So let's say in this example, we have 2 full baths, but in reality, we only have 1 full bath. And Department of Assessment right now thinks you have 2 baths, and they're giving value to 2 full bathrooms. So you're being overassessed because they have wrong information. So what you would need to do is contact Department of Assessment. Their number is on the screen, and we'll also have it available for you at the end of the presentation. You call them, you explain that their bathroom count is wrong. They may end up sending someone to your house to do an interior inspection to check and see how many bathrooms are there. If it's something different, like a garage that's no longer there, that they can either look on a map or just drive by the street and see that, they may not have to come into your house. But just be aware, if it's something interior, there's a good chance they're going to have to walk into your house and walk around to see the bathroom situation or whatever they're looking at. So, okay, so now we're all set. We're going to click on Find Sales. You're going to select properties from the sales locator output by clicking on the checkboxes in the select column. Now, your property is the first search result, so that means the subject, in our case, 504 Christie Street, is at top, and you can see it's a cape, shows the living area and the lot area, and the year built and where it is. Now, these are all home sales from your area. They're all from your school district, same school district as you, and they should all be in relatively close proximity to you, although the fewer sales in the area, the further out it may go. When you're looking for sales, we mentioned before about comparable sales. You're looking for sales that not only are similar to your house in terms of a cape, similar in square footage, similar in lot size, but you're trying to look for homes that are actually in your neighborhood area. They're in close proximity to yours. So if a person was going to buy your home and your home wasn't available, they would look somewhere else to buy your home, or buy a home that was similar, excuse me, and they would try and find a house that was most similar in location and most similar in style and size and so forth. So that's the mindset when you're looking for a comparable. If there are no capes that are similar in size, well, then you can instead look for maybe a ranch or a small colonial. It's not always going to be the best in terms of what's available, but you choose what you can based on what's able to be located in your area. Okay, so you could choose up to 5 comparable sales by using the sales locator. You could always add some more sales later on when you fill out your application. It's important to note, having a whole bunch of comparable sales doesn't necessarily prove your case more than just having 2 or 3 comparable sales. It's really the quality of those sales you choose rather than how many. And my feeling has always been, if you can't prove your case in 3, maybe 5 comparable sales, 10 sales probably is not going to help your case anymore. So please keep that in mind. So in our example, we've chosen 3 comparable sales, and we're going to select those and click Select Checked Properties and Continue. Okay, so you can see your property, and we'll select the comparable properties side by side. You'll see our subject, 504 Christie's, in the first column, and then the 3 sales that we chose are next to them. So let's take a look at that first sale, 508 Stratford Road. And you can see in that yellow boxed up area that it sold for $430,000 on September 13th, 2019. If you follow that column straight down, you're going to see that the computer has made adjustments to account for the differences between our subject and that sale. So if you look at the lot area, our subject is on a lot size of 7735, and 508 Stratford Road's lot size is 6240. So it's a smaller lot, so the computer added value to account for that difference. If you look at bathroom counts, we have 2 full bathrooms. That house, 508 Stratford, only has 1. So the computer has added $10,000 to reflect the difference between what somebody would pay for a 1-bathroom house as compared to a 2-bathroom house. And so forth, with differences in living area, garage size, and if there were differences in basement as well. And if you look at the bottom in that yellow boxed area, you'll see that the house that sold for $430,000, if it was a lot more similar to our house in terms of lot area, bathroom counts, and square footage, would have sold for $467,955. Those adjustments are similarly made to comparables 2 and 3. Now, these adjustments are based on the market area. So a bathroom in Hempstead may be worth $10,000, while a bathroom in Garden City may be worth $20,000. And again, this is all taken out of the market. That's where they get these numbers. Before we continue, I want to point out one more thing. If you look just above the yellow box on the bottom, it says weight, and you'll see it says 34, 33, and 33. When the final values are calculated, it can be done by an average or a weighted average. Regular average, you take all 3 sales, you divide them by 3, boom, come up with a number. That's the regular average. If you want to also check by a weighted average, you could assign weight. Now, the computer automatically gives each sale equal weight. So in this case, each sale is about 1/3 of the final value in terms of how they figured it out. But say you're looking at these sales, and that first sale, that's your sale. That's the sale that really proves your case, and you want to stress that. But what you can do is say, you know what? I'm going to make that sale weighted 50%, and I'm going to leave 25% for the other 2 sales. As long as it equals 100, you're fine. So in the weighted average, you're going to see on the next page, it would apply more weight to that first sale and lean the value towards that first sale. So that's an option you have. Most folks leave it alone, but you do have that option. So we're going to click on Continue. And we have to remind you at this point that ARC's sales locator is not an appraisal. It's not an opinion of value of your property by the Assessment Review Commission. You have to acknowledge and agree to this disclaimer before you continue. We're going to click I agree, proceed, and then what you get is the results for the selected sales. So now you see the weighted adjusted sale price is $476,938. The range of adjusted sale prices is $467,955 to $485,015. And the average adjusted sales price is $477,028. And you'll notice that the average and the weighted are pretty similar because we left it at the default setting. It's giving them each equal value. And it also reminds you right here that the taxable market value of your house currently is $461,000. So based on the sales that we chose, these appear to support the fact that the market value that DOA has for our home is fair. In fact, it looks like it's a little bit less than what the comparables are supporting. Now, does that mean forget it, you're done, you can't grieve your taxes? Absolutely not. You still have the right, regardless of what the comparable sales you chose have said, you still have that right. So we're going to click continue to submit an appeal, and it brings us to the actual form part of this presentation. So first you're going to do is click on your property type from the drop-down list to get the application form. For most of you, it's going to be AR1, which is for a 1, 2, or 3 family home. Then you're going to click on that form. And just to let you know, when you use Sales Locator before you start using the form, your sales and some data from the Sales Locator get put automatically into the application. So in Part B, where it's asking for a market value, the weighted market value gets put right into that automatically without you doing anything. The sales that you used in the Sales Locator are put automatically into Part E. We're going to go into depth on these sections in just a moment, but just to let you know, when you do Sales Locator first, that information gets transferred automatically into your application. One final thing before we get into the meat of the application is you're going to see blue question marks throughout the application. If ever you are not sure what they're asking you for, if you put your mouse and hover it right above the question mark, you don't even have to click. You're going to see a yellow box open up, and it's going to give you some more information to explain what they're looking for. So in this case, it's about the taxpayer applicant's full name, and it's saying if you own the house, write your name. If you're filing for a relative who owns the house, write that person's name, and so on. So again, those question marks are there to help you. Make sure you take advantage of it. Okay, so we are in Part A. Now you'll see the photo of your house. You're going to see the parcel ID automatically entered from Sales Locator, and you'll see the address and the name on the roll. So now we have to enter the taxpayer applicant's full name. In many cases, the name on the roll is the name you're going to enter. Below that, it says property owner if taxpayer is not sole owner. This is where, if you have a spouse, it's a great place to add the spouse for 2 reasons. First off, if they are a co-owner in the house, they should be there. But not to mention, when you have a question or your spouse has a question about the appeal or the application, and they call customer service, if their name is not on the appeal, we cannot speak to them. So if John Smith is married to Jane Smith and didn't put Jane's name on the appeal, even if her name is on the roll, we can't speak to her unless her name is on the application. So if you're married, keep the peace, keep it safe, and put your spouse on the application below yours. Next below that, it says form, and for most of you, it's going to be individual. So you would click on that and choose that individual. If any of the other choices apply to you, you would use that instead. Okay, so Part A is all set. Part B. Now, Part B is another section that is required. Like we said before, the full market value that you're entering in that box comes automatically from Sales Locator. Now, you are not stuck using that number if you feel it's not going to help your case. Right now, Department of Assessment says your house is worth $461,000. So if you were to put a number in above that, you're not looking for a reduction because you're saying their number is too low. So in this case, you'd put a number below that, $450,000, $440,000, whatever you think the number can be. So you're not locked in to that number from Sales Locator. Below that, it's asking if your home has been for sale or it's in contract. You'll answer yes or no. If it's yes, you'll put the price. Nice and simple, straightforward question. Okay, Part C. Part C gets filled out for you automatically. It puts in self. There is nothing to do but look at it and be thankful there's nothing to do. Okay. Part D. To see Part D, the full section, you're going to click on the pink display tab and open that section up wide. Now, Part D is optional, but Part D is my favorite part of the application because this is where you can really explain the reasons behind why you think your property is overvalued. And there's various information that it asks. It talks about whether you've done construction, whether you have a tenant, what type of home it is. You can reiterate what the number of bathrooms and kitchens and so forth you have. But to me, the important part of this section is about the bottom third where it says, are any of these adjacent to or visible from your house? And it mentions waterfront, railroad, apartment house, street with a painted center line, a park, commercial property, or golf course, other or none of these. This is your chance to explain why the location of your home or things about your immediate area may have a negative impact on the value of your home. So let's look at waterfront. Now, waterfront may be a great thing. If you're on the North Shore and the water's nice and calm, you have beautiful views and you can take a boat down there, that's great. That probably has an added value to your home. But if you're on the South Shore and you're a waterfront property and every time it rains, the water comes up over your dock and floods your house, well, that's a negative. So you would click on waterfront and then below where it says other facts, you could type that in. My house is on the water. Every time it rains, the water comes over the dock and floods my home, and that's a bad thing for the value. There you go. Railroad. If you will buy a railroad or back into a railroad, perhaps the noise is a problem, and that might have an adverse impact on your value. If you're in an area where people commute mostly and they don't want to have to drive a car to the train station, being close to a railroad may be a good thing. So again, none of these are cut and dry. Don't just check a box. Check a box and take the few moments to explain why that's relevant to your home. A park, commercial property, a golf course. Golf courses, people love golf courses. You have nice views, it's nice and quiet in the area. Maybe a positive. Or you may think, I don't want strangers walking near my backyard, hitting golf balls into my windows. So again, nothing is cut and dry. Check a box and explain why you've chosen that box. Street with a painted center line or other traffic separation usually means it's a higher traffic area than typical. Make a note about it. Now, just because there's no double yellow line on your street doesn't mean your street can't be a busy roadway. If your street is between two major roadways, say Hempstead Turnpike and Merrick Avenue, and people know that your street's a great way to cut across and avoid traffic, well, it may not be obvious to someone who's looking at a map, but you know there's a lot more traffic because of that. So check other and write, people use my street as a through street all the time because it's a cut through. That's important. That may have an adverse impact on your value. You're close to a school and you're the first street that actually has no signs preventing people from parking. So everybody at school parks in your street. Some of these things are not obvious to the people looking at these appeals. Make it obvious. Take the few minutes. You know your home. You've been living there. You're the best advocate for yourself. So please take the time and give us the information we need. Okay, but again, that's entirely optional, entirely up to you. Also optional is Part E. Now you see here that the 3 sales from the sales locator are automatically inserted into your application. Now, does that mean you're stuck with them? Absolutely not. You may look at these sales and go, you know what? They're not helping with my case. So you can click delete parcel right below the parcel ID number for each sale, and you can delete the sales you don't want to use, or you can delete them all. If you keep them and you want to add some comments, say for the first sale, you found out that 508 Stratford was made with a fine Italian marble kitchen and Corinthian leather, and you know that's why it sold for what it did, because it's really just a way above average house for the area. You could put comments in there and let us know about that. At the bottom of the screen, you see a blank area where you can add sales. If you remember before, we said you could do 5 sales during Sales Locator, but you could add up to 10 sales in your application. So if you wanted to add another sale, you can click on the magnifying glass where it says click to search for parcel ID, and you search for it the same way you search for your house property in the beginning of this presentation. You find the sale, you click on it, you'll have to probably enter the sale date and the sale price manually and add some comments about where you found the sale. Now, Sales Locator comes from mostly public records, but you can go on to Google and do a search. You can use realtor.com. Maybe you have access to multiple listing. You can also contact a local realtor. Realtors love to help people out with this because they're hoping if they help you out with this now, if and when you go to sell your house later, you'll remember that nice realtor who helped you out. So give a local realtor call and say, look, I'm trying to grieve my taxes. Can you find me a couple of comparable sales? And more often than not, they'll say yes. But again, Part E, entirely optional. You can put as much or as little or no information into this section and still do your appeal. Okay, Part F. First thing we do is enter the security code that we see in the black box. Type it into the white section over there. Next, you're going to read the certification. And you need to remember that everything you were putting in the application, you were saying by signing this that it is true and correct to the best of your knowledge. Take a few moments, read the entire certification statement, and make sure you believe that what you're doing is correct and true before you click yes. Below, it's going to ask for the signatory certification. For most of you, that's owner of record. But if any of the other things apply, you would click that instead. And if you've got that all set, you're going to click on Submit Application Form. Now, in this example, we found some errors because we made a few mistakes. And if you make some mistakes, the application is going to say, errors found in Part A, errors found in Part B, your appeal is not submitted yet. And you'll notice the red boxes that show you exactly where the mistakes are. So in this case, we didn't put a taxpayer applicant full name, we didn't choose the form, and below we didn't choose to put a market value. So you fill that information in that's missing, and you click on Submit Changes. And if you did everything right, you're going to get a confirmation message on your screen saying your appeal has been submitted with application number so-and-so, and you can make changes and resubmit. Also, you'll get an email with a confirmation that they received your appeal. Again, it may not be exactly like this, but it should be similar, and double check your spam filter to make sure that you're getting emails from us. Now you have the option to return to the home page if you're all done. You could submit another appeal in the same way, or you can view or add attachments to your appeal. Now, why would you need attachments? Well, maybe you had an appraisal done about 6 months ago, and you think it helps your case. So you could add it as an attachment, and we'll review that to see if that helps your case. Maybe there's photos. There's a gas station that's right in the view of the home every day. You want to take a picture of it, show us that's your view. You could upload the photo as well. So what you're going to do is you'll see it says view or add attachments. You'll click on that. It's going to ask you, do you want to add one now? You're going to click on yes to add the attachment. Pop-up window is going to appear. You're going to click on choose file. And once you've clicked on that, you're going to go to the attachment and double click on it like you would attach anything like an email and so forth. Be very careful when you're looking at the attachments you want to send us. Make sure it's something you really want to send to our offices. You're going to choose from the document type from a drop-down list. In this case, could be an appraisal. It could be photos. If none of those options apply, just choose other documents. You're going to click Submit Attachment, and it goes through. And as you can see in the middle, it says test.pdf. Now, if for some reason you sent the wrong attachment, you see it says delete. You can delete the document. Or if you want to add some more, you can add some more by uploading a new document again and going through the same procedure. And if you're all set, you can click on Return to the Appeal Form. Now, it's important to know that if you need to add or delete an attachment, you can do so anytime up till the filing period ends. After that, you will not be able to access your application and make any changes like updating or, uploading a document. But you could still have it added to your application by our staff. You would have to put it into the regular mail, send it to our office. The address is below at Assessment Review Commission, 240 Old Country Road, 5th floor, Mineola, New York, 11501. Attention residential supervisor, and their staff will add that stuff to your application for you. So again, you can do it online yourself up until the end of the filing period. After that, you mail it into our offices, and we'll take care of attaching it for you. Okay. Now, after clicking Return to the Appeal Form, when all the documentation for the appeal has been uploaded, you will see that your application has been received by ARC. And if you look towards the bottom right, you'll see right under status, it says received. So now you can click on the arrow home tab to return to our homepage, or you can click on log out if you're all done, and you're all done. Anytime you want to check your application, you can always log back in and go to the Appeal Filing Status Change tab to check the status of your appeal or if you need to make any changes. Okay, so we've done all that. Now, say you want to file an appeal, but you don't want to use Sales Locator. It's a very similar process. We're going to go through it rather quickly, only because many of the steps are exactly just what we did for doing it with the Sales Locator. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and we'll answer them all at the end. Okay, so on the Arrow Account homepage, you're going to click on one of the following, either the File and Appeal tab or the File and Appeal link, which is located at the bottom. Okay, so this takes us right to the form like before. We're going to choose AR1, which for most of you is the right form for a 1, 2, or 3 family home. Now, in this case, because we did not use Sales Locator, we have to search for our property like we did toward the beginning of the presentation. So again, if you know your parcel ID, you can put it right in there. Otherwise, you're going to look for your property same way as before. Put a number, put a street, but do not put a street, avenue, or lane at the end, town, zip code, and click search. And if all goes well, you will find your property at the bottom, and you will click on the parcel ID. Just like before, it's going to bring in your address for name on the roll and your parcel ID right into your application. Again, you're going to fill out the taxpayer applicant full name. If there's a co-owner or a spouse or so forth, you would add that in there on the second line. And on the third, from the dropbacks, you're going to choose individual for most of you in terms of which form you need. Now, Part B is a little different only because since you didn't do Sales Locator, that value is blank. There's nothing to bring in automatically to put a value. So you're going to have to put that value in there. Now, remember, your value as of now is $461,000. So if you think that your value should be something lower than that, you need to put it in. So say you wanted to put in $440,000. You would put in 440,000, no dollar signs, no decimal points, no cents. If you wanted to put in 430, same way, no dollar signs, no decimals, just put in 430,000. Okay. Is property offered for sale or in the contract? Same as before. If it's yes, answer yes and put the price in there. If it's no, just answer no. Like before, Part C has been filled out automatically. Part D is exactly as it was before. You click on the display tab to open it up. Fill out as much or as little as you want to do with this to help you make your case. And same as before, I still think Part D is the best way to help make your case. So please take a few minutes and check it out. Part E, again, totally optional because you didn't do Sales Locator. It starts off blank. But like before, you can add sales in manually, like we mentioned before, or you can leave it blank and put nothing in here again. As it says up top, Part E is optional. Part F, like before, is required. You need to put in the letters for the security code. You need to read over the certification again. Choose which signatory certification applies to you. For most of it's on a record. And then click Submit Application Form. And like before as well, if you make any mistakes, it's going to tell you there are mistakes made, show you where they are. And once you make them, you click on Submit Changes. And as long as everything is done right, like before, you will get an appeal number and you will get an email showing you that the application has been gone through. Anytime you want to make a change to your appeal, you can do so by clicking on Appeal Filing Status Change. Now, a couple things to note. Once you start this application, you can't stop and go back. You have to at least finish the basics. Now, set yourself aside a good 20 minutes to fill this out, because if you start the application and then you leave it and you walk away and it times out, you have to go back to the beginning and start all over again. So what you can do is fill out parts A, B, and C, just the basics. Fill out F, which is a certification. Submit the application, get the confirmation that it was accepted, get the number, and then at least you know the appeal is in. And then if you want to go back later and fill out Part D and Part E, you can do that. That is optional. Just make sure once you start, you at least get through enough to get the confirmation number that your appeal has gone through. So, like I said before, if you want to check on the status of your filing or make any changes, you would click on Appeal Filing Status Change. You would find the application number for the appeal to see your submitted application, and you can do the search here by using a parcel ID, by tax year, application number, appeal number, and so forth. So we did the search and we found our appeal is right there at the bottom. We're going to click on the application number. And now it's giving you the option to make some changes. So let's say you wanted to go back and change the 460 that's here in Part B and make it 430. You would go in there, make the change at 4:30, and click Submit Changes. Now, again, don't forget, you can only make these changes until the filing deadline. After that, any changes to your appeal has to be done by sending in mail to our office and having our staff make the changes for you. Also, when you want to add some additional documents to your appeal, maybe you realized a week later after you did the appeal and you got it approved that you had an appraisal you forgot about, or a friend of yours is a realtor and finally came through with those sales. So you can go to the application, you can click on the Art Communications Attachments button, and it'll give you a chance to upload new documents, or you can delete something if you decided that's not helping your case anymore, and you can delete that out. And then you just do the attachments the same way as before. Okay, one more final thing. On the application page, you can withdraw your appeal by clicking on Withdraw Appeal. Now, you are only allowed to have one appeal per parcel. So let's say you filled this out yourself and then decided to go with a rep. Well, you can't have two appeals in the system. So you would have to delete your appeal. You'd have to withdraw it before the rep could represent you. So what you would do is make sure all your pop-up blockers are off first, and you would check with your browser on how to do that. You're going to click on Withdraw Appeal, and a pop-up is going to appear, and it's going to say that, are you sure you want to take away your appeal? You sure you want to withdraw it? And read through the entire thing. Make sure you have read the terms of the agreement, and if so, check the box, and you're going to click Agree. Now, this is unable to be undone. So once you withdraw your appeal, you can't just redo it again. You can't just get it back again. You'd have to redo the appeal all over again. So be really sure about what you're doing. Once you click Agree, it's going to say the application has been successfully withdrawn. You'll see on the bottom right, it says Status Withdrawn, and that appeal application is gone. And that is it. That is how you do this. So it's time to answer your questions. I'm going to bring in Jeremy May to help me out. Jeremy will introduce himself, and he and I will answer some questions.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Rob. Thank you for the presentation. My name is Jeremy May, and I am the Vice Chairperson of the Assessment Review Commission. Some of you may have seen that I have been trying to take some of your questions while Rob was presenting using the chat feature. But now that we have reached the end of the presentation and we are entering the Q&A session, we are going to take those questions verbally, especially the ones that may assist the entire audience rather than just the guests that ask the question themselves. So to that extent, we also have a member of our customer service team who may be sending you private answers, but now Rob and I will start taking the questions from the top, make sure that we get to everybody and that we offer the broadest perspective as possible. As Rob mentioned, he is one of our assistant county appraisers. He is, of course, focused more on the valuation end of our practice. My training and education is in the law, so I do have a different perspective and may be able to assist Rob with your questions. So all that being said, let's get to it. We had a guest that asked about if there is a difference in ARC's response if they hire a company or if they file the application themselves. As far as Rob and his colleagues, they do not know when they are reviewing the value of a property, whether that property is represented by a company, a lawyer, or if the owner has filed the application by themselves. That is completely irrelevant to the value of a property, and it is not part of the appraisal team's consideration. So there is no benefit as far as reductions secured if you hire a representative versus if you fill out the application by yourself.
And if I could add one more thing to that, Jeremy, I mentioned this during the presentation. Who knows more about your property, you or a company you're going to hire? I really truly feel that you are the best advocate for your house in terms of you live there, you know what's going on. So it's, at least in my opinion, especially in that Part D, you can tell us a lot about your house that the average person would not know because you've been living there. So I always feel like the person, rather than the company, is the best advocate for themselves.
Okay. So we had a concern about if you have signed up with a rep already, can you choose to change your mind? And what about the next tax year? Well, the easy answer is that each individual tax year stands by itself. If you hired a company a year or two ago, they are not allowed to file again on your behalf unless you authorize them to do so in writing. I can also give a little bit of context about what ARC is currently working on. We are finishing our review of the 2021-22 tax year. If you are concerned that you hired a rep for 2021-22 and that you want to finish the appeal by yourself, you can do that. But I would just have to alert everyone that our review period ends on March 31st of this year. So ARC is not going to be aware of whatever agreement you have with your rep about terminating that relationship at this stage in the review process. We have seen that some reps, when putting together the contract for the homeowner will, require some sort of separation fee. Again, not trying to encourage anyone to do one thing or over another, just trying to alert everybody that if you have hired a rep for 21-22 and you don't want to continue using them for 21-22, you have the right to essentially fire them. But ARC would not be aware of whatever contract you had executed with them and what they would be looking for in response to that. As far as the 22-23 tax year, which is the filing period that we are currently in, you are absolutely within your right to file an application under your own name, and you do not need to use the same rep that you may have hired even in the very previous year. Okay. I see that we had a couple of concerns about the sales locator. I think it's worth mentioning, Rob, if you wouldn't mind trying to get the sales locator back up on the screen.
Sure.
That when you are searching for your property in the sales locator, you only want to enter the house number. You want to enter the name of the street and the zip code. You don't want to try and include any of the descriptors like street or lane or boulevard or avenue. It may just be that it's recorded in a very specific way in the system, and that if you do not 100% match, the computer will not think it's a match. So when using that sales locator, just include the house number, the name of the street, and the zip code, and it should come up. If for some reason it's still not coming up, you can let us know about that at our customer service line, and we'll have to just take a look to see if there's some specific glitch with your specific property. But that would be exceedingly rare. I don't even think that we've seen that before. Okay. I can reiterate in response to this question that you can start your appeal process by visiting our homepage, which is askarcnassau.com, ARC being ARC. We will be posting that in the published section as well. There will be a link to our Arrow app, which is where you'll be filing your application on the homepage. You can also just go straight to the homepage for Arrow, which is mynassauproperty.com/arc/arrow. Again, we will be posting that verbatim. So if I just had a strange moment and used the wrong address, use the printed address rather than trusting my memory.
Yeah, actually, I just put it up in the Q&A a few moments ago, actually, Jeremy. All the links are up there. The contact information for customer service. There's even the phone number and contact form for Department of Assessment too. So, and there's also, because I know there was questions about where are we in our progress and what's the time frame. There's a link to that brochure that I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. And if you look at the brochure, it's got the calendar and explains the time frame for what's going on in terms of when things are due, the progress of when we're going to be looking at the appeals and make determinations. It's all right there in that timeline. So that's very handy to print out the brochure and keep it someplace so you can always have the calendar right in front of you.
Okay. This next question, I think that I'm going to try and turn over to Rob, and it's a question about a basement. Apparently, when looking up a particular home, the owner was concerned that the inventory did not mention the basement or mention the correct type of basement that was included. I can inform everybody off the top of my head that the living area of your basement is not included in the valuation appraisal of the property. But Rob, why don't you just jump in and speak about, what people need to know and need not to know about including basement in their inventory?
Well, again, and I don't know that we addressed this a little bit with the basements. Again, they're not included in the living area. First off, if Department of Assessment doesn't have that you have a basement, again, we can't tell you what to do and what not to do. But if you're telling them that you have something that they don't have in the system, I mean, you're looking to keep the information accurate, but at the same time, for you to call and say, by the way, I have 16 bathrooms and you guys only have me as one, kind of goes against the purpose of you trying to lower your assessed value. So, but that's just a fact of life there. But in terms of the basements don't really enter the equation that much. And like Jeremy said, and I said as well, the living area is really the predominant feature in terms of the home. Living area, bathrooms, garages, things like that are really where the focal point of the value is on a property. And again, sometimes the difference between a half basement and a quarter basement and so forth kind of gets a little, I guess, hinky, or confusing is maybe a better word, because some folks refer to it like with a split, having a part basement or a high ranch. Is it a basement or is it above grade? So it gets a little confusing there. So whenever you have a question about the inventory of your home and you're not sure about something, Department of Assessment can really clarify that for you, and they can explain why they have things in the system as they do. It may be that your basement is above grade in the front, but below grade in the back because of the way the slope of your property goes too. So it can get a little confusing. So when in doubt, when it's anything to do with the actual inventory that Department of Assessment has on file, that really is a question for the folks over at Department of Assessment. And their phone number is on the screen. Is on the Q&A, and they can always be reached through their website as well. And in the Q&A, there's a link to their website. So if you have any questions about the actual inventory, things that are recorded in terms of your bathrooms and so forth, Department of Assessment are the folks you want to speak to.
Okay. So we had at least one guest that is concerned about their 21-22 applications and that they haven't had a response from the Assessment Review Commission yet. If you can check the status of your application by visiting Arrow. You may also contact our customer service line if you're concerned, though I can also let everyone know that ARC's review period ends on March 31st, so that is the absolute latest that you will be hearing from us. And we are still working on 21-22. So if you are concerned about a non-response to your application to date, you do have the option of checking the status online and with our customer service. And please be assured that you will hear from us absolutely no later than March 31st. And again, I can speak briefly about our timeline. So for the applications that you're filing this year, calendar year 2021, ARC has until March of 2022 to finish our review period. So it can take quite a while for us to get a response out to you. We do hope and do ask that you can be patient in that regard, and we do our absolute best to be as prompt as possible with our responses.
Jeremy, I see a couple of questions asking about what to do if you live in a village. Well,
I guess I can offer some context generally. If your village operates as its own assessing unit, you would not be grieving your village's assessment by filing an application with the Assessment Review Commission. You would need to contact your village's Department of Assessment to have them inform you what the appeal process is for a village. Other than that, if your village uses the Nassau County Department of Assessment's assessment role, then you would want to file an application with ARC if you are concerned that that assessment is inaccurate.
Okay. Jeremy, we have another question here. How long will it take to have an answer from the department? Well, that part we just mentioned. Does the difference approved, will it be sent by check or is it applied to the real estate tax account?
Oh, it is very rare that your assessment challenge goes on long enough that you would be in a refund position. If you disagree with the assessment review commission and you go on to file a SCAR appeal, it is theoretically possible that you would be, going through that process long enough that a tax bill would be issued. If yourself and the assessment review commission came to an agreement as to the assessment of your property, that would be implemented before a tax bill was ever sent to you. So there would be no refund to cut a check on, because your assessment and the resulting taxes would be lowered before you were ever sent a bill. If the circumstance should come that you disagree with the Assessment Review Commission and SCAR takes long enough that a tax bill is issued, you would be responsible for paying the tax bill, and presuming that you got a reduction after that, you would get a refund on that overtax on that bill. Okay, so another question we have is, will the workshop remain on the website so I can rewatch it? We do host a shorter video on our homepage, askarcnassau.com. It is about 6 minutes long, so that may be of help if you are trying to fill out the application and you wanted to find a quick answer. Of course, that video can't go into the detail that we just enjoyed with Rob, and there's no Q&A session to interact with. But in the event that you have a question, that is a resource that you can look at to see if it'll get you over that hump and allow you to finish your application. If you had other questions after this seminar closed out, you could reach out to our customer service line.
Okay. I see a question here. Is it possible when filing a grievance that taxes increase rather than decrease?
Okay. I did try to take that question privately with the guest, but it's actually a little bit more complicated than my initial answer may indicate. So the Assessment Review Commission has zero authority to increase your assessment. So just for sake of argument, if your assessment was 1,000 and you grieved with the Assessment Review Commission, the absolute worst thing that could happen would be that your assessment stayed at 1,000. We cannot increase your assessment by even, one assessment dollar. However, it is possible that even if your assessment stays the same or is lower in comparison to a previous year, that the taxes that you are billed can increase. And that could be for any number of reasons. It could be that, a taxing jurisdiction's budget went up. I think we typically see that school budgets go up at least a certain percentage each year. It could be that properties in your neighborhood were damaged by a natural disaster or were destroyed in a fire. And if that were the case, then those property owners would no longer be in your taxing jurisdiction, and everyone else would have to make up for the taxes that they would no longer be paying. So it is not the case that you can be harmed by filing an application with the Assessment Review Commission, but it is within the realm of possibility that if you file with the Assessment Review Commission and do receive, in fact, a reduction, that other circumstances would ultimately result in a higher tax bill.
Okay. We got a question. Is there a time limit on an appraisal? I mentioned 6 months. Could it be a year old? Yes, it can be a year old. If you feel that is still relevant, I would say no more than a year. But if it's within the past year or so, there's no harm in certainly in submitting it. It may help your case. Definitely just use the attach feature and submit it for review.
Okay. Please repeat what you said about Part D. I don't think that we'll have the time to go over everything about Part D, but I think briefly what Rob and I would suggest is that Part D is optional, and Part D is your opportunity to tell the Assessment Review Commission about your property. No one knows more about your property than you. And Part D is designed to guide an applicant towards making their best case. You can use as much or as little of Part D as you find helpful. And if there are areas of Part D that you think are really beneficial, but the computer limits the number of characters that you can respond on it. You can even, after you submit the application, finish your thought in a Word document and attach that letter and make it part of your application after the fact.
Okay, I think we answered. Someone asked about, can an appeal result in an increase of taxes? We actually just answered that question a few moments ago. Let's see. If the house that we just purchased still has the previous owner's name on the roll, what do we need to do?
Okay, so if you are in the process of closing on the house, you have an individual right to file an appeal, even if the tax roll does not yet reflect that you are the property owner. What you would want to do is, on the application, there are certain instances where you can identify if you are the owner on the roll or if you're in the middle of buying the house. And you would just indicate that you're in the middle of buying the house, and we would ask you to attach a copy of your contract to the application after you were finished filing it.
Okay. Someone may ask the question, do we count the basement half bath? Typically, the bathroom count that you see is based on the above grade. So if you have a basement in the a basement bathroom, typically Department of Assessment, if they have a record of it, of course, would incorporate that into the valuation by what they give value to the basement. We don't have access more to what we see unless you tell us in Part D that you do or do not have a bathroom. We don't have access to that information in terms of when we're looking. Rather, we just see full rec room and so forth like that. So we typically don't see the bathrooms in there.
Okay. I'm seeing a couple of different questions inquiring about taxes and tax increases or notices from the Department of Assessment. We're not trying to ignore them, but I would just reiterate that, we here, Rob, myself, and our friend behind the scenes, Jason, are with the Assessment Review Commission, and our agency is strictly limited to evaluating when a property's assessment is overassessed or underassessed. We ourselves don't deal in property taxes at all. So, I'm always hesitant about giving information that's not really in our wheelhouse. Questions about taxes for any particular home should be sent to the Department of Assessment, and I think we have published their customer service information. And, in general, I can say that, taxes can increase, even if the assessment is the same or lower than a previous year, for some of the reasons I've already described. Some people, experience property damage because of natural disaster or fire. There's a lot that goes into the question of what the taxes are, besides just the assessed value of your specific property. So it's very difficult for myself or Rob or Jason to confidently speak to that issue. We really do have to defer to the Department of Assessment.
Okay. I see a question here. I think that's a little confusing because it says, how do you know that you benefit more with SCAR than STAR? What's the main difference? It's actually two different things. STAR is a property tax rebate. Am I saying that correctly, Jeremy?
Yeah, close enough. I'll buy it.
SCAR is actually the step you would take after the Assessment Review Commission. SCAR would be a small claims assessment review that if you were given an offer from the Assessment Review Commission and you didn't want to accept it, you wanted to take the next step, that final step would be small claims assessment review. And Jeremy, I know you have a good explanation for what SCAR actually is.
Sure. So, ultimately, ARC and the applicant and the property owner may disagree about the value of your property. You may feel that, or you may have a strong opinion that your property is overvalued, that the Department of Assessment got it wrong. And after ARC's review, we may disagree with you and say that the Department of Assessment has it right. You don't have to accept ARC's determination. You have the right to an appeal. And SCAR, which stands for Small Claims Assessment Review, is an avenue available to appeal. You would be essentially suing the county, saying that the Department of Assessment was incorrect, and that the Assessment Review Commission should have offered you a reduction but didn't, and therefore, court, would you please look at my property's assessment and give me a ruling saying that my property's assessment should be lowered. That is a process that is essentially annual. And, if you feel that the Assessment Review Commission got it wrong, you have the option of pursuing a SCAR and taking that issue that one step further.
Thank you, Jeremy. Just a reminder, folks, that we have all the contact information links in the Q&A. In fact, I'm going to publish it one more time in case you didn't see it. You should see that pop up in the Q&A now. And again, it's got links and contact information, our office hours, phone numbers, how to get in touch with the Department of Assessment, as well as if you want, there's a link to download the trifold brochure that has all those important dates on it. So
okay.
Please take advantage of that.
I do see a question that we haven't touched on yet. Please explain again, applicant estimated and requests the assessment be reduced based on full market value. So that's a question about Part B. Rob, if you wouldn't mind flipping back to Part B in the slide.
Sure.
So in Part B, you are required to inform the Assessment Review Commission what you think the value of your property is. So what we are asking in this question is that you basically write down a dollar value of what you think your property would sell for on January 4th of 2021. So if the Department of Assessment, has you set at a market value of $500,000, but it is your opinion that the value of your property is not 1 cent more than $450,000, then what you would record in that field is $450,000, and you would be asking that ARC set your assessed value to be the equivalent of that $450,000 figure. Again, that's basically the floor. If you ask for $450,000, the Assessment Review Commission cannot set an assessment lower than $450,000, but that is not intended as a gotcha moment. You have the option of updating that figure, but it is required as part of your application for you to inform us what it is that your opinion of the value of your property is.
Okay. I see a question about senior discounts on property tax. Exemptions are the purview of the Department of Assessment. I am sending you, and I will put this in the public chat as well, a link to the Department of Assessment's section on exemption brochures. So that should be helpful to you. And I'll put this all available for everybody. But anything in terms of exemptions, senior citizens, veterans, and so forth, that's all under the purview of Department of Assessments, and they're qualified to answer those questions.
Okay. So I think we have gotten to all of the posted questions, but we are in no hurry to run away. So if anybody in the audience thinks of anything else, the Q&A feature is still open, and we can give that a couple of minutes. But in the interim, both myself and I'm sure Rob and our friend Jason really hope that this presentation was helpful for you all. And again, if you come up with questions that you wish you had asked during the presentation, you can review our video on our homepage, and you can reach out to our customer service staff. I do believe that Legislator Abrams has another session in February, and I will go ahead and get that date while we're giving everybody a few more minutes to think up of any more questions that they may have.
His next one is February 25th at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
So, and his staff, I'm sure if you have any questions, his staff is always willing to answer questions as well. You can always give his office a call. But yes, it's February 25th, 7 p.m. We'll be doing this again. So if you want more information, or if you have a friend you want to tell about this, we'll go through it all over again. And by the way, I must say, there was some really good questions in this group. We've done this a few times already. There were some really good questions we haven't seen before. So bravo to you guys. And I'm not seeing anything new come in, Jeremy. I think we must have covered. I spoke too soon. Hang on a second. My 22-23 assessment is higher than my STIP of assessment reduction in December 2020. How do I address that?
Okay. Well, the Department of Assessment's final roll for 2021-22 will be published on April 1st of this calendar year. So if there is a discrepancy between what the Assessment Review Commission found as your value for 2021-22 and 2022-23, the Department of Assessment may very well recognize and address that for their final roll publication on April 1st. If you are still concerned about that, an option you have is to file that 22-23 assessment grievance with ARC, which should give you some comfort that even if there is still a discrepancy when the Department of Assessment publishes that final roll on April 1st, that it can be addressed by the Assessment Review Commission.
Okay, great. Once again, someone asked if the presentation will be available online. We'll be doing multiple presentations throughout the next month or two. But again, there's a 6-minute video, a shorter version of this that's right on the ARC website, right on that front page, that you can start and stop and follow along with, and should be able to help you answer most of your questions. Also, you can always call customer service if you have any questions, and the guys at customer service can help you out with that as well. Somebody asked whether the exemptions go on your application. No, the exemptions are not part of appealing your assessment.
Rob, I think I can offer some context on that.
Oh, sure.
So one first has to apply for an exemption with the Department of Assessment, and the Department of Assessment will actually respond to that application by either granting the exemption or denying the exemption. You can appeal a Department of Assessment denial of an exemption application, but you do have to apply for that exemption with the Department of Assessment first. The application that we have been teaching everyone about this afternoon is what we call an assessment appeal, our Form AR1. If you are concerned that you applied for an exemption and that the Department of Assessment improperly denied it, you would want to file a Form AR3. That's also available on the Arrow app. It is not the focus of our presentation today, so I can't give a whole class about it. But I think that we did publish in the public section of the Q&A a link to the Department of Assessment's brochure page regarding exemptions, and that may be a good place to start your research. And I would also recommend, if you had further questions, that you contact their customer service line at 571-1500. So it is not 100% the case that ARC cannot review for an exemption, but we can only review for an exemption if you had already asked the Department of Assessment for one. Okay.
Thank you for the clarification, Jeremy. And also, I'm going to put on our chat, I put the link to the brochure section of the Department of Assessment. I'm putting up a link to the forms section of Department of Assessment as well. That may be helpful to you as well to take a look over there.
Okay. We have a question about taxes and tax rates ever going down. That's something that I feel comfortable speaking on briefly, but I don't think that I have the expertise to go into great detail on it. There's a lot that goes into a tax rate. It includes the budgets of your governments, essentially, the county government, your town or your village, your school district, or any special districts that you happen to live within. It is possible that an overall tax rate could go down, but that's not strictly an assessment question. It is also a matter of the budgets of your governments and whether those budgets are staying static, if they're continuing to increase, if they're being decreased. So the tax rates is not simply a question of the assessed value of one specific property. It is a much larger question. So that is basically the extent of my confidence in speaking about it. Okay, we have a question about additional features that might be on Part D. Is that in Part D, Rob?
That's what I'm looking for now, yes. I was trying to find out where they were asking that question about additional features. It may not be the exact phrase additional feature, but in the property description, when you talk in the property information section, this is where you can indicate any additional features that you want to focus on. As you notice in the middle of the section, it says fill in the number of kitchens, half baths, full bath, bedrooms, other rooms. And you could also mention whether it's got a 1-car or 2-car garage, central air, an in-ground pool, professional office, and so forth. And when in doubt, you could fill information in that other facts section of the box. It doesn't have to be necessarily about the location. It could be about anything on that page. Also, if you feel that that little box isn't big enough, you can type out like a Word document and then put everything you want to put into that Word document and then upload that as an attachment, just like you would photos or an appraisal. If you feel that you don't want to put the information in Part D, you can just put a Word document together and attach it to your application, and we will review that as well. And I hope that answered that question.
Okay. I think what this question is asking is there a negative to grieving your assessment? There is no negative to you as the owner of your individual property. You know, an argument could be made that, you know, if a vast majority of the applicants didn't really think that they were entitled to a reduction and they grieved anyway, that would be, you know, creating some government waste. But no, you know, as far as your individual application, you cannot be harmed by it. If you apply with the Assessment Review Commission, the absolute worst thing that can happen is that the assessment set by the Department of Assessment stays the same.
I think we've covered everything, Jeremy. I don't see any more new questions coming in.
Okay, we can give everyone a couple of minutes before we say goodbye.
I'm going to go back to that last page again in case somebody wants to copy down those numbers. Oops. And again, we really want to stress the fact that even though the filing date was extended till April 30th, please, please, please do not wait until the last minute. There could be a power outage that night. You waited till the last minute and then you can't submit. Anything can happen. Don't leave anything to chance. Like I said, you could always file your appeal now and go in and make changes up until April 30th by yourself by doing it online. But at least you know it's taken care of. So please, the sooner the better. This way you have plenty of time. And again, give yourself like a good half hour when you're doing this. Give yourself a good half hour of time to actually sit down, concentrate on this, and get it taken care of. Just find a night when there's nothing good on TV or your DVR is taking care of everything and just concentrate on that. But of course, if you have any questions, give us a call during the day. Our customer service folks are always happy to take your calls and emails and clear up any confusion you may have.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say thank you to Rob for the presentation and to our friend Jason, who was assisting us behind the scenes. And again, we hope that we were able to help everyone that joined us today. And thank you all very much. Take care and have a wonderful weekend.